So there was the big Army parade, 250th birthday on Saturday in Washington, D.C., and that also happened to be President Trump's 79th birthday. Now, of course, a lot of people looked at this event and they said, this is just Trump throwing himself a birthday bash. That's what this really is all about. Oh, my, they will just latch on to anything they can, for crying out loud, my goodness. It's not Trump's fault that his mother gave birth to him on Flag Day, June 14th, okay? I mean, there's a lot of things you could blame Trump for, I guess, if you want to. The day he was born is not one of them. But it's amazing how much people try to tie all this stuff together and then insist their political opponents are the real conspiracy theorists.
Joey Behar thought it was a conspiracy. It
Gosh.
was so funny.
Was that a coincidence?
Yeah. They just can't help themselves, man. They just can't. So you had a lot of people out and about in D.C. Now, it was not, of course, comparable to the No Kings protests. And part of the imagery they were going for on Saturday on the No Kings side of this was like, we had millions of protesters. And in D.C., it was just a small group of people there to celebrate the Army's 250th anniversary. Well, first off, the crowd was decent. Weather didn't look great. It also is not exactly being done in a place that would be called, the home of U.S. Army love and enthusiasm in Washington, D.C., of all places. So all that factors into the equation. But it doesn't change the fact that celebrating the United States Army is a valuable investment for the country. Now, a lot of people are scoffing at the price tag of $45 million. Now, let's not forget, a lot of that was covered by sponsors of this event on Saturday. There were a lot of corporate sponsors who got in the mix. Now, the other conspiracy is that those corporate sponsors are just trying to buy into Donald Trump's good graces. It's a pay-for-play kind of scheme. You can't have it both ways. I mean, just pick a lane, okay? Trump tries to get some of this privately funded, then that's not good enough because it's people trying to buy influence inside of the White House. I mean, my gosh, they just twist themselves into a pretzel every which way, nonstop.
Got an answer for everything, like your 14-year-old.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's true. So they had this big parade, and it displayed around 6,600 soldiers, hundreds of vehicles and aircrafts. And I didn't watch a lot of it on Saturday. I was skimming around a little bit on Saturday afternoon into the early evening and just caught some of it, caught some of Fox News' coverage, and it looked like it was well done. It was not like this look at Donald Trump kind of an event. Now, of course, he was there, but to me, this is like sports teams. We've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks talking about what is the inherent value of being a professional sports town. Is there value in spending tax dollars on the Chiefs and the Royals for new or upgraded stadiums, right? And when it comes to economic development, the answer is usually no. However, you can't put a price tag on the pride that having a professional sports franchise in your city brings to a city, brings to a community. It's very difficult to try to put a monetary value on that to a region.
Kind of like the market. It ebbs and flows.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this celebration for the Army, and it's very similar to me. Like, okay, if you really want to nitpick and say this was a waste of money, these guys want to find ways to stop spending money in the government, and now they're spending millions of dollars on a parade for the U.S. Army. What's the point of that? Okay, but if it brings us continuing pride, if it helps the Army recruit, which, by the way, as Guy Benson noted at his live show last week here in Kansas City, and as we've talked about on this show over the last couple of weeks, the United States Army has already beaten its recruitment goals for 2025. They are smashing those recruitment goals. If events like this become a way for the U.S. Army to continue to recruit, to get people engaged, to get people enthusiastic about being a part of our military and serving our country, there's an inherent value in that you can't simply put a price tag on, and that also can't be overlooked, John.
I like the value of the impression it makes on the world stage.
Yes, that too.
Not vacating Afghanistan, leaving everything behind.
Yeah.
This is the opposite.
That's an excellent point as well. There is something about this that I think Trump knows is also about reminding the entire world that the United States is back, that we're not led by incompetent cowards who don't have any idea up from down.
Come on, man.
Those days are over. Yes, there's an element to this that's a little bit of a strongman mentality. Yeah, I'll give you that. But guess what? I'll take the strongman over the clueless weakling every single day and twice on Sunday. And that's what Saturday was also about. Now, how did the media react to it? MSNBC had this little clip between Chris Hayes and one of the reporters on Saturday, and I'll give MSNBC a little bit of credit here. Now, they set it up by saying we expected a very dark and gloomy and Trumpian tone to what we were watching. But then they come around and they admit, boy, this thing is not really what we expected. Go figure. Here's MSNBC on Saturday night during the Army's 250th birthday celebration.
One thing I will say, I want to go back to you, Allie, that again, when we talk about this sort of tension in the country, and sometimes, you and I have both been at Trump rallies, those can be, very tense, a kind of, I would say, like kind of a dark, malevolent energy sometimes in them. Not always, but it doesn't seem like that's the energy on the mall today, which I think is a good sign, right?
Correct. That you're really correct about that, Chris, and it's something we were watching for. Yeah. I'm just sort of surprised by the number of people who were at the front of the parade watching, cheering, and then would come and ask to take a selfie.
Yeah, right.
This is a very different mood here.
Yeah.
People seem to be going out of their way to say that they're here to celebrate the Army's 250th birthday. Now, there are people walking around with signs. A moment ago, while you were talking to Jen, guy just came around and said, Trump 2028. And I said, how does that work exactly? And he's like laughing and had a big flag on him. So there's some politicization here, but it is not, it's not dark. It's not tense. It's not amped up. It's different. It's different from covering a Trump rally.
It's not dark. It's not tense. It's not amped up. It's not your typical Trump event. Well, that's not a typical Trump event anyway. The guy's out there dancing to the freaking YMCA for crying out loud.
I love the Trump 2028. How does that work? No, it just did. It got you wound up.
Exactly. And I guarantee you the guy that walked up to the MSNBC reporter and screamed Trump 2028 was trolling him.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
He was screwing with him.
How does that work?
And the MSNBC reporter falls for it every time, hook, line, and sinker. So this is something that you can't really put a numerical value on. But with the amount of waste that we have in this country, for anybody on, the non-Trump side to scream about the cost of this thing, while they had no problem with USAID giving $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt or $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, I don't want to hear it. Travis and Lenexa, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, I got 2 points here on that parade. So you got to understand that when the Army... So, an example, National Training Center, we send troops there all the time to train. Troops are training all the time. So there's an expense with your Army at all times. So whenever people saw all these vehicles and all these troops move to Washington, D.C. for this parade, there was some training associated with that, whether it be the Air Force with the C-5s or rehearsing. So there was training. They would have been training regardless, so it was still going to cost the taxpayers money. Secondly, this parade was not about Donald Trump. If you watched, it was really just showing a reset of our Army that we've gone through 20 years. We've reset. Hey, we've set the bar. The world, be alert. We're here.
Exactly right. That's what it looked like to me over the weekend. A reminder that America is the strongest and greatest country and the most powerful country on the planet. And I think that there are a lot of world leaders, both bad and good ones, who need that reminder right now. And you can't put a number on that. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate it. Also on the text line, 913-408-7957. How much do we think was spent on law enforcement for all the No Kings rallies throughout the U.S.? It's a good point. When you factor in overtime for cops, what did that cost Kansas City and all the other major American cities to have cops out and about over the weekend on Saturday for all these No Kings protests. That probably cost a pretty penny.
Oh, that wasn't free?
There is no free lunch. I remember that from my first economics course at Villanova. The professor walks up and he says there is no free lunch. There never is. Just don't tell that to some people.